Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. And today we'll talk about remote work and why much more flexible models will win this fall rather than the more traditionalist coercive models calling all workers back to the office. We've seen this summer the battle over remote work really heating up. We see traditionalist leaders like Google. So Eric Schmid talked about how he's a traditionalist leader and he's the former CEO of Google, but he still represents Google's ideas and he wants people back in the office. And Google is definitely pushing to get people back in the office for at least 3 days a week. Tesla, Elon Musk has said that, and same for SpaceX, that all employees must go back to the office for full-time week. So they need to work completely from the office. So they're opposing remote work. They're trying to coerce their workers who worked well, fine, very productively remotely to get back in the office. And we know that remote workers are actually more productive than in-office workers on average. We have a lot of research showing exactly that. So this demand is leading to employees resisting this coercion. They're resisting it in a number of ways. A number are simply resigning, including in Apple. So Apple is another one of these companies that is trying to force its employees all back to the office 3 or more days a week. And the head of its AI division resigned, saying that it's because Apple's policy is so inflexible. And of course, many lower-ranking people are resigning for similar reasons. Even people are threatening strikes. So the Google Maps division, they threatened a strike unless Google delayed their return to office, and they got a 90-day delay. Signing lots of petitions, so they're doing public activism, which is unusual for people at Google, Apple to be public about it. So criticizing management publicly, not only signing petitions, but publicly expressing criticism, and of course, leaving for more flexible rivals. Rivals like Amazon or Facebook or many other companies like Applied Materials that are offering much more flexibility to their workers. And these are folks who are desirable: software programmers, other folks, specialists, data scientists. Anyone who can work remotely, whose work can be done remotely, has a lot of desirability and can find a job elsewhere. Now, we need to understand what's happening and why I say that remote work will win this fall. That's because we have new COVID variants that will really cause more of a shift to remote work than we have right now. We have government, Anthony Fauci and others are warning that new COVID variants this fall could cause as many as 100 million infections. Maybe more, maybe less. The most dangerous one is BA5, and you've probably heard about it. And there are newer ones coming out that we don't know enough about yet that might prove pretty dangerous. So there's a version of BA2 that looks like it's pretty dangerous. It has potentially even more vaccine escape than BA5. But so far, not enough research has been done on that. So let's talk about BA5. What we know is that it has become the dominant variant in the US and elsewhere in Europe, most European countries. It's more resistant to immunity, whether from vaccines, whether from prior infections. It's also more transmissible, so it's easier to transmit. Not only are we less protected, whether from vaccines or prior infections, but it's more transmissible. And it seems from initial studies that it causes a more severe illness. So that sucks. That's very unfortunate. And that combines with the fact that in the US, due to bickering between the parties, the government funding for COVID, addressing problems for vaccine development, for pills like Paxlovid, so treatment of COVID, has been dramatically cut. We spent over many trillions of dollars, spent several $1 trillion on addressing COVID, and now we can't spend in the tens of billions to prevent COVID from hurting us further. It's unimaginable. It's very hard to imagine this is the situation, but it really is. So it's pretty terrible. Now, what's the implication? So this is the reality that we're facing. And this is an election year in the US. It might not get better, it might get worse. So the implication is that COVID reinfections also are an issue. So we'll have a lot of people who will get reinfected with COVID. If you got infected the first time, again, BA5 escapes your immunity. So the immunity from prior infection is much less effective against BA5, unfortunately. So vaccines also are becoming less effective over time. So both vaccines and prior infections are becoming less effective over time, causing us to be more vulnerable to getting reinfected with BA5 or getting infected in the first place if you had a vaccine. And unfortunately, the booster effort is pretty far behind. We have not updated the booster to match the new strains that are being developed. Unfortunately, supposedly we should have been able to do it within a couple of months, but Omicron came out in late fall of 2021. We still, by the summer of 2022, have still not addressed the updating process. So the booster effort is pretty far behind in that regard, and it's also behind in terms of uptake. Relatively few people are getting booster shots. It's very unfortunate and surprising. But yes, people are not getting booster shots even though they're very much able to. So new COVID variants escape antibodies from vaccination and prior infection, and that is what we need to remember about them, that they will cause either reinfection for those who were infected with COVID before, or infection with people who had immunity due to vaccines. All right, how does this impact back to office strategy? Well, let's think about the past. In previous COVID waves, whether the Delta wave, the Alpha wave, the Omicron wave, this forced office return policy led to situations of challenge prior to the wave. So what happened? So prior to the wave, leaders like Elon Musk or the leadership of Apple, Tim Cook, and so on, of leadership at Google, they forced their employees back to the office, and that led to a lot of stress and tensions before the wave. It undermined productivity because, first of all, people are more productive remotely. Second of all, when people are unhappy, they don't work very well. It harmed engagement and morale, led to people leaving, of course, impairing retention and recruitment. So those are all problems. Now, once the wave hit, so this is what happened before the wave hit. This was the forced office return policy, and it led to a lot of stress, harmed productivity, harmed engagement, harmed morale, harmed retention and recruitment. Now, that's a lot of stress to accomplish getting workers back in the office, but guess what? Once the wave hit, you can look at back and look at the newspaper articles on what was happening when the Delta wave was hitting and the Omicron wave was hitting. All of these companies rolled back their back to the office policies, right? They later rolled them back. And so all the stress was wasted. All the tensions, all the drama was wasted effort. And so we'll see the cycle again repeat this fall, where BA5, which has become dominant, will lead to, in the fall, when the virus is more infectious, due to both cold weather and people spending more time indoors and waning vaccine protection, that will lead to a lot more infections, as Anthony Fauci and other government officials have said. Now, why do leaders resist having more remote work? What's going on there? What's the psychology there? Well, the bosses are calling staff back to the office because they want to feel empowered. They want to feel in control. They're saying that they're losing social capital. They're saying, Elon Musk said that remote workers are only pretending to work. Google said it wants social capital. Apple wants innovation. But really, if you've seen previous episodes, if you've listened to previous episodes of the Wise Decision Maker Show, you'll have seen that social capital, productivity, and innovation can be very well activated, boosted, maximized in fully remote settings, if needed, because there are techniques to do so. And these companies are refusing to use best practices for optimizing remote work. And they're saying they're trying to call employees in for productivity, social capital, innovation, but that's not true. Because if they really wanted innovation, if they really wanted productivity, if they really wanted social capital, they would be using best practices to get workers in there, whether asynchronous brainstorming for innovation, whether virtual co-working for productivity and collaboration and social capital, virtual water coolers for social capital, the evaluations, the excellence from anywhere strategy for productivity, lots of strategies to do so. And they're not. And they're covering up their true concerns, which is about their identity. And you have to feel for them. They feel strong, they feel powerful, they feel successful by being in the office. Now, Elon Musk, when he was talking about why he wants people back in the office, he says, well, I spent time back in the office and I was visible. And it's very important to be visible. So this visibility element. And there was a recent op-ed in Fortune magazine, which talked about how a leader, actually the executive editor of Fortune, really wants everyone back in the office and wants to go back to the office herself because she feels she lost her identity as a powerful leader when she has to work from home. So they are losing their identity, and that's literally what the op-ed author, the executive editor of Fortune magazine said. And they want to feel successful. They want to get back to that state where they feel successful. And that's with in-office work. And this is, of course, selfish when we think about it. It's very self-oriented. It's not oriented toward the company. It's not oriented toward others' perspectives. And the executive editor of Fortune admitted this. She said, literally, this is from the op-ed. She said that, yes, this is selfish, this is self-centered. Still, this is what I want. And this selfish disposition is resulting from a cognitive bias, a mental blind spot called the egocentric bias. So it prioritizes your own perspective, your own needs, your own priorities over everyone else, over all others, and very importantly and problematically for leaders, over the company's bottom line. Because obviously you're going to harm retention, you're going to harm recruitment, engagement, morale, productivity, cause lots of stress, harm well-being by forcing employees back to the office. And especially in a time when it's really useless, because you'll need to roll this all back in the fall. A much better approach to the future of work is a team-led model. Not this top-down approach where you tell everyone what to do, but a team-led model where you push down, decentralize authority and decision-making to the leaders of rank-and-file teams. They should decide, along with their team members, consulting with their team members, what work arrangements serve best for their team members, and arrange for those work arrangements. So different models will be good for different business models. Different models of work will address different requirements for different businesses. There's a hybrid first model, and there's a home-centric model. So let's go through these two examples. Hybrid first model, with it, again, all team-led. It's best for teams that heavily depend on collaboration, where collaboration is quite important. So staff will work home on their individual tasks. We know from extensive research that people are overall more productive on their individual tasks at home, and especially on all of their tasks at home, and especially more productive on individual tasks. And again, this is an average. If you have screaming kids in your home, or if you're a young person who has roommates, you might not be more productive from home. But this is on average. People are much more productive from home on their individual tasks. But they will also come to the office once a week. Once a week is a default. Some people like to do twice a week, but once a week I find is quite enough when I work with my clients to socialize with each other and collaborate. And of course, if you need to collaborate more intensely, you might want to come in twice a week, even 3 times a week, depending on the kind of collaboration you do. Most people get by and are happy and satisfied, fulfilled, so well connected to other team members, collaborate well once a week. Because collaboration, of course, and socialization are better in the office, so we understand that. Now, some people, you have various studies showing that collaboration can be more productive at home, and it depends on the people, the kind of collaboration you do. So the more intense collaboration you do, the better it is to be in the office. I'll give you examples among my clients. One is Applied Materials, a Fortune 200 high-tech manufacturer in the semiconductor manufacturing industry. manufactures equipment for semiconductor manufacturers, and it has 29,000 staff, 400 global leaders, and they adopted this modality and they find it fits their needs very well. So this is a Fortune 200 company. This is a huge company, 29,000 people. Now, on a smaller scale would be the Information Sciences Institute. It has 400 staff. It's a data science and AI research institute. So with teams led by research directors who then manage their team members. And they were originally going to go to a 3-day-a-week model like Apple and Google. And after engaging with my content, they learned that that's going to be much better to have a team-led model. And they find that their flexibility works much better for their needs, for attention, engagement, productivity, and so on. And the same thing for applied materials. They find that they had a really positive impact from, I was just talking to the Chief Human Resource Officer, Susan Winchester, who was telling me that there had a big positive impact from my research and from my expertise presenting these methodologies, which I mentioned before. Things like asynchronous, remote brainstorming, virtual co-working, and so on. Now, another one is a home-centric model. So that's where people work, of course, primarily at home, like it sounds, primarily home work. That's for teams that want to come to the office only for important meetings, maybe training or so. It's a better fit for organizations whose work is more individualized, less team-oriented, so you have less collaboration. An example of my client is the JAP Center for Health Research. Now, when we did the survey for that client, 85% of the staff wanted to work home remotely full-time. And they did not do as much collaboration with each other as, let's say, the Information Sciences Institute staff do, where they work in groups centered around the research director. And that's an example where home-centric model works very well for them. Now, what are the benefits of these flexible work models? Why should you employ them? Well, they give employees flexibility, and this is the top priority. When there was a recent survey that showed that when employees are choosing a job, the focus, what they're really focusing on right now in the time of the Great Resignation when so many employees are leaving, flexibility. Flexibility is their number one desire. They want flexibility of where to work and flexibility of time to work. The focus where to work is incredibly important. It addresses risks related to COVID because when COVID cases rise, then the team can spend more time working remotely. Or maybe if they want to meet, they can meet outdoors. So they're not dependent on the office. And it's much more flexible. It reflects each team's needs and collaboration activities. For some priority, they can come to the office and have more masks and more masking and whatever other. They can all take 2 rapid tests before they come to the office to do some collaboration. It helps companies develop leadership in the future of work. These are modalities which will determine the future of work. This is the future. We're not going to go back to the past. We're not going to go back to January 2020, no matter how much people like Elon Musk might want that. They will find that best employees are leaving their company. And overall, the future is with hybrid first and home-centric modalities. So it can maximize profits for companies overall by boosting their retention. They'll definitely very clearly retain employees more. Recruitment, obviously much more capable of recruiting employees. Collaboration, you can collaborate with people much more effectively if they're happy, if they're productive, and if you have this flexibility. So if you need to collaborate more, perhaps a hybrid first model. If you need to collaborate less, perhaps a home-centric model. Innovation. You can definitely innovate very effectively using remote asynchronous brainstorming and other techniques for whether it's a home-centric model or hybrid first model. And productivity. We have very clear research that productivity is quite a bit higher if you have people working remotely. And of course, if you have people happy, which is what you'll get, an engagement, high morale, less stress, more well-being, happy employees by having this flexible model. All right, everyone. I hope you've benefited from this episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, and I would love to hear any feedback you have on this show. Email me at gleb@disasteravoidanceexperts.com, and please leave a review on iTunes and Amazon, whatever platform you heard this show on. This helps other people discover the show and get the benefits that you're getting right now. And I hope to see you on the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. So please go ahead, make sure that you subscribe to it on whatever platform you checked it out. And I look forward to greeting you next time. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.